The rain had started before dusk, a slow drizzle that turned into a downpour as night took over the small Vermont town. On Ravenwood Hill, the old house stood like a corpse with its bones exposed, the paint stripped away, windows cracked like broken teeth, and its porch sagging with rot. No one went near it. The stories where too many children dared each other to touch the rusted gate. Teens whispered about screams echoing from inside, and even the older townsfolk avoided looking at it when they passed by. They said the house had a hunger. Ethan and his friends didn't believe in curses. At 24, with a YouTube channel that barely scraped 1,000 subscribers, he was desperate for views. Horror content was trending. Kids loved watching people freak out inside haunted houses. The plan was simple: spend one night inside Ravenwood Hill with cameras rolling, then edit it into a viral masterpiece. He had brought along 3 others: Clara, his sharp-tongued girlfriend; Mark, the class clown who carried most of the equipment; and Jenny, quieter than the rest, but eager to be part of something exciting. The gate groaned as they pushed it open. The yard was mud and weeds, the trees leaning over like crooked sentinels. Ethan filmed the exterior with exaggerated commentary, trying to make it funny. But the moment they stepped onto the porch, the air grew heavy. It smelled damp, but underneath was a metallic timps, faint but sharp like rust or blood. Inside, the floorboards complained under their weight. Wallpaper peeled like shedding skin, and dark stains bled across the wood. Mark laughed nervously, pointing his camera toward a long hallway. "This is perfect," he said, like something out of a horror movie. They set up camp in what might have once been the living room. Rain rattled against broken windows. Their lanterns cast shadows that moved like living things. At first, the mood was playful teasing, daring each other to go upstairs or into the basement. But as midnight crept in, the laughter died. The cameras began glitching, static buzzing in their audio. Doors slammed by themselves. The house groaned as though it were shifting, settling, breathing. Jenny swore she felt something brush her hair, cold and bony, though no one was near. Clara snapped at her to stop freaking out, but her voice was unsteady. At 12:30, Clara screamed. She had gone down the basement stairs with a flashlight, muttering about proving everyone wrong. Her shriek echoed up the stairwell, raw and animalistic. Ethan and Mark rushed down, the camera wobbling in Ethan's grip. What they found froze them. Clara was sprawled on the concrete floor, twitching. Something had torn her throat wide open. Not a clean cut, but shredded as if teeth had ripped through flesh. Blood sprayed in thick rivulets, pooling around her head. Her eyes rolled back, mouth working soundlessly, as if she were trying to speak. For a moment, Ethan thought she might still live, but then her jaw slackened and her body went limp. Mark vomited in the corner. Ethan dragged him back, shouting at Jenny to call 911, but her phone had no signal. None of theirs did. Then the laughter started. Faint, high-pitched giggles echoed in the basement, but not from Clara, from the shadows. They sounded like children playing hide-and-seek, except the laughter rose and fell in unnatural tones, distorted, as though multiple throats were joining in at once. Ethan pulled Mark upstairs, dragging the camera with him. Jenny was crying, whispering Clara's name. The hallway seemed longer than before, stretching unnaturally. They tried the front door. Locked. The knob turned uselessly, the wood unyielding. Mark cursed and ran to a window, smashing it with a chair. The glass shattered outward, but behind it wasn't the yard. It was only blackness, a void so deep it seemed to swallow the light of their lantern. Cold air rushed through, and a whisper brushed Ethan's ear. Stay. They stumbled back into the living room. The walls seemed closer now, the ceiling lower. Blood was dripping down the wallpaper in long, slow rivulets, though there was no source above. Mark backed into a chair and yelped when he looked down. The fabric was soaked. Red, warm liquid seeping through his jeans. He stood, and the entire cushion was slick with blood. The smell filled the air, metallic and choking. Jenny gasped, pointing at the far corner. In the dim light, a figure stood pale, child-sized, its eyes hollow sockets. Too wide, a black maw grinning. It giggled, and then it was gone, swallowed by shadow. Mark snapped. He shouted that he wasn't going to die in here, and he bolted toward the stairs. Ethan tried to stop him, but he was gone, boots pounding up the steps. A second later, his screams filled the house. They were shrill, tearing, and then cut off with a wet sound, like meat being ripped apart. Ethan forced himself to follow, camera in hand. Jenny clung to his jacket, sobbing. The upstairs hallway smelled like rot. Walls. When his light hit, he saw strips of flesh nailed into the plaster, fresh and glistening. One still twitched, a finger curling as if alive. Mark's body was at the end of the hallway, or what was left of it. His torso was split wide open, ribs cracked and bent outward like broken wings. His organs glistened in the lantern glow, steaming in the cold air. His face was half missing, jaw torn away as though something had chewed straight through. Blood spread across the floorboards, dripping down between the cracks. Jenny screamed and covered her mouth, stumbling back, something moved behind Mark's corpse. A shadow uncoiled, long arms dragging across the floor. Its head tilted, bones snapping as it rotated too far, eyes glimmering in the dark. Ethan raised the camera just as the thing crawled forward, grinning with a mouth lined with jagged, uneven teeth. They ran down the stairs, back to the living room, slamming doors behind them. But every door led to another hallway, another staircase. The house was folding in on itself, trapping them in an endless maze of wood and blood. The whispers grew louder, voices that mimicked their own, calling their names in distorted tones. Jenny collapsed against a wall, gasping. Ethan tried to drag her up, but she clutched his arm, eyes wide. "It's inside me," she whispered. Then she convulsed. Her back arched violently, bones cracking beneath her skin. Blood poured from her mouth, her eyes, her nose. She screamed once, and her stomach tore open from the inside, intestines spilling onto the floor as something clawed its way out. Ethan staggered back, horrified. A small, childlike figure crawled from Jenny's ruined body, slick with gore, smiling with her face. It giggled, tilted its head, then scuttled into the shadows on all fours. Ethan screamed until his throat burned. Alone now, he ran through the house, his camera catching glimpses faces pressed against the windows from the inside, hands reaching from the walls, flesh merging with wood. The air buzzed with flies, though none were visible. He stumbled into what might have once been a bedroom. The bed was soaked in blood, the sheets writhing as if something pulsed beneath. On the dresser, a mirror reflected not him, but Clara, her throat shredded, eyes black, mouthing the word "stay." The camera shook as Ethan backed into a corner. His voice cracked as he screamed into the lens. "It doesn't end. The house won't let us out. If someone finds this, don't come here, don't." Something lunged from the darkness. A pale hand wrapped around his neck, claws piercing flesh. The camera caught his eyes widening, the spray of blood as his throat was ripped open, and then it fell sideways, capturing only the floor as his body convulsed. Gurgling, his screams turned wet, then silent. The recording ended. The next morning, police found the group's car abandoned by the roadside near Ravenwood Hill. Inside the house, there were no bodies, only the cameras lying in different rooms, still recording. The footage was incoherent, filled with screams, blood, and distorted laughter. No one has entered the house since. But locals say, if you walk past Ravenwood Hill on a rainy night, crying for help, begging to be let out, while something else laughs in the shadows,
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.